Good morning. This is ValorCraft Workshop. My name is Will. This is my Monday morning live stream. And once again, it's not Monday morning. Failed again at that. And it's still morning though. It's Tuesday. And I told myself yesterday that I need to do this first thing. And I've told myself this week after week, this needs to be a first thing action before I do anything else. Inevitably, I come into the shop and I pull something off the printers, or I see dust. I always see dust. Start cleaning things up, and one thing leads to another, and then it's almost 10 o'clock now. So I've been here about 2.5 hours, and finally getting to this. And then, of course, software doesn't start right up, and all sorts of different things happening. Have a clipboard with some notes to keep myself on track a little bit. This clipboard probably came from Artbox or Daiso when I was stationed in Korea. I love their clipboards. Anyone watching from, all right, no one's watching. But if anyone were to be watching this later from South Korea or Japan, maybe, I think that's where Daiso's from. If you see some really cool clipboards, I love me a good clipboard. Cute and characters better. Send them my way. I'll gladly pay the shipping. All right. Actually, I've got Artbox and so around here too. Maybe not the actual brand, but close ripoff. All right, I'm going to keep my screen open to the YouTube because last time I did a live stream, there was actually someone that was live and commenting, and I didn't see it. Now, the way I'm set up currently, there's a slight delay on that video. So I'm seeing myself mirrored, or the way it's broadcasting, and about a second delay. So it's going to be a little bit confusing. I'll try not to get too distracted. Also, things that could come up during this live stream, UPS is supposed to be delivering between 10 and 12 today, and it is 9:53, which means they're probably going to show up in the next couple of minutes, and we'll deal with that as necessary. All right, again, I've got notes to stay on track a little bit, and the title of my segment this week, after writing last Friday's Substack and thinking on some stuff over the weekend, the title of this segment I'm calling My Attention is My Tension. And I love how I cleared my throat before I said that, so it came out nice and clear. Let's try that one again. My attention is my tension. A bit better. So I don't need to do less. I just probably need to choose better in what I do. This isn't anything new. It's nothing I haven't spoken about before. I've been saying for years that I can do anything. I just can't do everything. And this week, that sharpened into something a little more clear for me, something a little clearer of my attention is my, and it's so hard to say, it's a tongue twister. My attention is my tension. Again, this isn't a new idea, it's an evolved one. And I'm not really overwhelmed by the volume of work I have, although I think I mentioned last week I had spoken to my old friend from my Army days, former first sergeant of mine, and still a very good friend, who made the comment to me of like, why are you seeking all these certifications and all this work? You're going to be too busy being retired to work. And we were talking last week and talked about how is it we're so busy and when we don't have jobs, or we don't have a 9 to 5, 40-hour week, or when we worked together, it was way more than 40 hours a week. But so how is it we don't have that commitment yet we are still overburdened? It seems we're overburdened with things. And the way I've sharpened this is not, if it were one thing that took up all this time, it would be easy, or it's much easier. Since I've always tried taking on so many different things, I like being this multi-potentialite, this highly hyphenated person, or this highly hyphenated identity that I have. It actually makes it much more difficult. So I'm not overwhelmed by the volume of it. It's just I'm strained by how fragmented my attention is. So when my attention splits between multiple tasks or multiple roles, I really feel it. So I'm trying to fit too many things, different things, into this 6-hour box of my day. So the way my day rolls out is I drop my son off at his school, and then my wife off at her school where she teaches. which is pretty close to the shop. So then I come over to the shop. So I pretty much have the hours of, let's just call it 7:30, excuse me. Let's call it 7:30 to 1:30 on average. Some days are earlier, some days are a little later. So on average, about 6 hours of a time box I get to play with, and which is good. It's a good amount of time. But I can never dedicate an entire day to one thing. So if it were just taking a 6-hour cube and dropping it in that box, fits perfectly, great. Unfortunately, I'm doing multiple things. And it's not as simple as 6 1-hour segments of different things that are all the same shape and scope, require the same mental energy, that would all fit neatly stacked on top of each other in this box. Instead, it's I'm popping a pyramid in there, a sphere, a rectangle, an L-shaped something else. So it doesn't fit neatly in that 6 hours. Even if individually the task would only take 6 hours or an hour each times 6, they just don't fit neatly in that box all the time. Different size, different shape, different scope. And sometimes it takes me out of the shop too, which makes it more difficult. It would be different if each task required the same time and attention. I think I just said that. 6 equally sized chunks of similar complexity would be too easy for me. So the 6-hour myth. The reality is you don't get 6 hours for one task. You get 6 1-hour fragments, as I was saying. And I don't even think it's that neat. So I split my time up between ducks, custom work orders, custom offsite work, offsite handyman work. So you see this mission creep forming, or my identity creep, or I guess it's scope creep, but it's more in the sense of identity and roles, or that's the problem of not defining what my job is or what my role here is. It becomes everything, and it becomes too easy. And I've talked about this before, of just saying yes to everything. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And this past week, it really came to a head. Other things I'm working on: shop cleanup, purging equipment. I've got old equipment still from the fire that needs to be cleaned up and sold, gotten rid of. Shop cleanup, organization. I wrote shop cleanup twice because I've been talking about it for 2.5 years that I've been in the shop. My own creative desires, there's always the list of things that I want to make that I don't get around to. It's really the first thing to go. Business administration, admin tasks, my taxes, my books. So this is really the first thing to go, because I hate those things. I hate to think of this as a business. Unfortunately, I need to, but that's that artist versus business person, business owner, business person, or business person, artist versus business owner that I think a lot of artists struggle with. I keep using the word artist, and I'm not trying to put a tag on myself. Oh, I'm such this lofty artist who makes like 3D printed ducks that kind of look like a bee, right? That's not the art I'm talking about. I'm just talking about craft. I'm talking about creative pursuits, artistry in the creative sense, not in the prescribed, follow the instructions, do the task, build it kind of sense. So being fragmented and trying to do all of these different things causes a great amount of tension for me, a great amount of stress. Although I may not show it on the outside all the time, there's that underlying stress and tension brewing constantly. And this is just out of this space, out of this persona of the artist, craftsman, business owner. This doesn't even take account family, household, preparing meals, planning trips, just getting people to and from where they need to be, or my outside pursuits, my commitments with community band, or pretty much it. Right now, I haven't played hockey in quite a while. Can't really say I'm a hockey player if you don't play hockey, but all those other things. So this is really just talking out of the workshop proper, how split I am, how fragmented I am. And so it's not the effort, it's the fragmentation that is so exhausting. So again, the illusion is, okay, today is just going to be woodworking day, or it's just going to be wood turning day, very specific to one tool. I'm going to go make stuff on my lathe for 6 hours straight. That's never happened. Once upon a time, I thought that could happen. Okay, this will be lathe day. This will be CNC day. This will be do some shop build day, build out a, even the workbench I'm sitting at right now, or all the workbenches to my right, all of them have makeshift shelf slots on, which seems crazy. Like, why can't I finish a project, particularly something that's an organizational project, get it done before you start putting tools on it and start working on it, finish the thing first. So the illusion is I'm going to focus on one thing on a day. The reality is orders and maintenance and administrative duties, interruptions, all these different things. And Rick about to have an interruption really soon, I think, from UPS. I think I heard his tire squeal, his brake squeal. When I got my real estate license, about 2.5 years ago, I thought I was going to fragment it. I was going to take one day a week that I would focus on real estate agent stuff. And one day as a notary, one day as a, like all these things I was going to do one day for that. If I can't even do 5 days a week in the shop to where I can do one day on a tool or one day on a certain task, how on earth am I going to do one day as a real estate agent fragmented, one day as a this fragmented, one day in the shop multi-fragmented now, because now all these other things I need to do. Anyway, I got my real estate license, and my dad said to me, like, there's no such thing as a part-time real estate agent. And it's quite true. You can't fragment that. At least to start, you need to be all in, right? And that could be said for many things. You can't be a part-time, I'll just hit the 40,000 feet. You can't be a part-time artist. You're either artist or you're not, I think. And this is the trap I've fallen into recently. So if I'm going to be an artist, I need to be an artist. And that needs to be the business card. What do? I do this, I do some custom woodwork, I do signs, I do blah. Okay. Which one thing? I'm a custom woodworking artist. I'm a whatever, but I'm not all of these things. So not the multi-hyphenated hydra, as I call it, of handyman / artist / woodworker / duck breeder / laser engraver / trim carpenter / whatever else I said yes to, but shouldn't have. So I think you get the idea there. My attention, this is where the title comes from, my attention is my tension. Next topic, the CNC lie. So when I first got the shop, I've been drawing layout plans, and then I came across some videos of Shapeoko CNC routers. And man, these things were cool, all the stuff you could do with it. And the videos I was watching, everyone was like, oh man, the CNC, you buy that CNC router. Yeah, it's a little expensive, but it's your first employee. You just hit go and that baby's working for you and you go do whatever you need to do. So I got a big one. I got a 4 foot by 4 foot bed on it. So I can do some big projects, and they make bigger ones, obviously. But for a kind of a consumer, what they call it, prosumer usage, I think I got a good one, and then proceeded to make a couple of really small items on it. Didn't need all that space on it, but still big plans to use it to make something huge. And then, what they didn't tell me, yes, your first employee, what they didn't tell me though, is that those employees require management, right? They say the CNC is your first employee. What they don't tell you is that makes you a boss now. You need to provide oversight and management, and you're the designer now and the operator. Yes, you hit start, you turn and walk away, but then you're wondering, did I secure the material properly? 5 minutes later, I have to change tools out, change out the bits, or something bound up, there's an error, and you need to go figure that out. So yes, it could do a lot of stuff for you, but you can't truly walk away from it. So that leverage, the leverage of having the tool like that is great, but it adds oversight. And I don't really call it oversight. I call it overhead. It's a time overhead. There's a cost to me of having automated tools like that, because they don't run themselves. They don't press start. They don't design. They do exactly what you tell them to do, but you have to tell them what to do, or you have to program what they're going to do. So it's overhead of time and mental space. So even if it's running smoothly and you are able to walk across the shop to do something else, make a cup of coffee, what have you, it's taking up space in your head of worrying about your baby, that it's not going to crash on you. So it can do things faster, more accurately, and sometimes things I can't do myself, even with the most precise tools or best skills in woodworking, but it can't do it on its own. And it's the same with lasers and printers. A little less, once the laser's going, I can walk away or be across the room. It's either going to run or it's not. It's not just going to get bound up. It may just stop for some reason, have to fix it, or it caught something on fire. That happens on occasion, right? But so same with those. Every tool you get expands possibilities of what you can work on, what you can create, but it also adds to complexity. And so there's always that expansion and compression of honing the tool set. Like every time I think I don't need to buy another tool, then I buy another tool. Either it's on sale and it's like, ooh, that'd be good, that'd be handy. What I'm trying to do with that is buy the tools that will replace a tool now. Okay, and case in point, I've got my 12-inch Hitachi, I think it's called Metabo now, but I've got the older model, the Hitachi compound miter saw. Great for in the shop. It's on a mobile base, but I don't have a pickup truck, so it's not that easy to throw in the back of an SUV. It's got some weight to it, pretty big. And then I'm doing some trim work lately or recently, and also just trying to downsize some things. So I end up picking up a small DeWalt compound miter saw that's battery operated, not cordless, I think is the term I'm looking for. Little thing that weighs like 14 pounds and it's accurate for what it does. I could have gotten the Fest tool and spent $1,000, spent a couple $100 on this little DeWalt, and it does the work for trim beautifully and for little pieces that I need to do super well. So glad I got it, right? Tool for the job. Ultimately, it should place out a bigger tool, or maybe once I decide to let go of the other, because that's handy too. Maybe not the best example. Let me look around. There could be better examples. I've picked up a couple. I've got sanders galore, but ones I can get rid of, old Craftsman ones. So I got Fest tools, excellent tools, but they hook up to my Fest tool dust extraction so well. And it's an easy button for me to use something like that and to get into that universe. Or let's take another example. Sometimes it's buying with battery operated tools, it becomes a thing of getting in one ecosystem. So I have a lot of DeWalt because I've got a lot of DeWalt batteries, and it's so much easier to stay in that ecosystem of a certain battery, because the second you go buy a Milwaukee and now it's okay, now I have to get all the batteries with that. So I've got DeWalt, I've got a couple Ryobi tools, and I very purposely don't buy other battery operated tools from other brands because I don't want yet another battery. That was a little bit of a side road, I think. Anyway, every tool expands the possibility of what you can do, but the complexity as well, often requiring oversight, or as I called it, overhead of time and mental for the proper care and feeding of that new tool. And it splits my attention again. And as I've said, and as I've titled this segment, my attention is my attention. Next little segment, artist versus contractor. This is my identity mismatch. I don't approach contractor work like a contractor does. This is what really became apparent this past week. I approach it like an artist, and that's the problem. And I don't want to call it scope creep, because that makes it sound like my client changed the rules on me as we went, and that's not the case. I signed on first to I've created outdoor signs for this client. Then I signed on to do some indoor signage and then lettering on throughout the shop. So we'll just lump all that together as indoor signage, which then turned into some trim work, framing out mirrors, and stuff in the studio. And then that leaned into trim work in the studio's bathroom, and then painting tile walls, all things I can do. Absolutely. No problem. I can do it. And a bathroom vanity and a faucet, sink replacement and all that. Can do all these things. Great. Can do all those things up to a point. We'll get to that in a minute. But I approach all this, the trim work, especially as an artist, not as a contractor. Contractors optimize for throughput. Artists optimize for precision and meaning. Not that there's a lot of meaning in bathroom floorboard trim, but I measure 20 times. I want it to be so precise. I want someone to look at it and go, I want them to have the same reaction to the trim and the framing of these mirrors as they do to the lettering I've put up on the equipment, on the walls, on the front door sign, on the bathroom and staff door signs, on the signs I haven't created yet, more art pieces. I want to have the same reaction to those things I want to have the same reaction to the trim work as they have to that. I want the same reaction to the sink as they have to everything else. But a contractor doesn't approach it that way. I measure 20 times. I want it to be super precise. They measure once and then move on. I reinvent the wheel every time. Contractors use tried and true methods. This is why you pay a premium for a plumber, let's say, or an electrician, because they know exactly what they're doing. Let me jump off another little tangent story. I was redoing lights in my kitchen in South Carolina when I lived there. And I viewed having to wire this in a way. I just dug a trough through the ceiling down the middle, and it stayed open for a year and a half, I think. And I ended up stapling white plastic bags across it because it was all open to the world. Till I hired an electrician. So when I finally got into the wall by the light switches, it's an old house, 70-year-old house, a lot of old wiring in there, and just some of the wiring looked a little charred, and it's okay. That's where I drew the line. I'm not messing with that. Called an electrician, guy named Fish, got Fish out there. Fish came out, and just the way he wired, so different because he's done it 1,000 times, a million times, who knows how many times, a lot of times. He knows exactly what to do. He knows exactly the length of slack of wire you need. I'm thinking of cutting wire between each thing. He's running one piece of wire throughout, pulling loops down, cuts it later, but doesn't cut it until he's got everything in place. Then it's right where it needs to be. Then he cuts it, strips it, wires it. And it was just like, it would have taken me, had I done it myself, God, it would have taken hours. It would have taken an hour per light fixture. I think there were about 8 light fixtures through there. Dude knocked it out like in an hour because he's done it over and over. He can eyeball it, get the right thing in there. I got to measure 20 times and figure it out from there. I approach things with a beginner's mindset because it is probably the first time doing a task. Oftentimes, contractors approach with ease because I've done it so many times. So when I'm saying artist versus contractor, I'm not bad-mouthing contractors at all, because it's impressive to be able to do one thing and do that one thing really well. If you're a contractor that does things really well, then kudos to you. Now, if you're a hack, then you're a hack, but you could be a hack artist too. So this misaligned identity that I have, are you an artist? Are you a workshop owner? Or do you build things in your shop? Or are you the traveling handyman, pseudo contractor? Are you a plumber? Are you which hyphen are you today? Being fragmented like that, being so misaligned, it creates some drag on me. It creates a drag on that 6 hours in the day, to where it's a lot of it, it's just pulling you back. So it's not an efficient 6 hours, switching between all these things so often. Another piece with this artist versus contractor, like some of the work I'm doing is straight up for cash just because of who's paying for it and how we're billing it. And that works great. The other side that I've enjoyed, because I am a client of my client in the plotting space. So we've been bartering on a lot of services, or a lot of product that I've made for the shop and services. We've been bartering, which is fine also. It's I'm not getting paid differently, or the final value of it is not different than had we paid cash. The difference is when you're bartering and it's credit that's been applied to your account, disassociate the work with the pay. And I did this for 32 years in the military too. I never really associated my paycheck with the work I did because the paycheck came every month. And I did, some weeks I worked a lot, some weeks I didn't work a lot. But same paycheck was always the same. Always showed up same time and for the same amount. I mean, with raises and stuff through the years, but it was very predictable. I knew money was coming. And I also knew I had to show up to work. I think a lot of people with salaried positions experience this. So nothing new for you. There's something beautiful about being paid hourly and being paid every 2 weeks or every week. It's even nicer to where I work X number of hours for a certain rate per hour, and end of the week or end of every 2 weeks, I get paid for that. So if I don't work, I don't get paid. And if I work a lot, I get paid a lot. So there's something really beautiful about that. Like you really have that connective tissue between the work you're doing and the pay you're getting for it. When you barter, again, valuation the same, but the approach or the view of it is a little bit different, and you disassociate the work you're doing with the pay or with the credits. Yeah, having that work directly correlated with the pay, there's no confusion in that. And so you work, you get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. But kind of like it. Capability, I've said this before. Capability does not mean obligation, does not equal obligation. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And that's been the stark reality this past week. So jumping into my next little segment or rant, the plumbing moment. This is where risk and maturity met, brought all of this to light. Could I do it? So this was the bathroom portion of my handyman work I'm doing. Can I replace a faucet? I've replaced plenty of faucets. Sometimes good, sometimes not good. Sometimes trial and error. We won't go down that route. Anyway, I've replaced faucets, like a sink faucet. Like I didn't change out the sink, but just change out the faucet. Or I've put in utility sinks in different shops. I've put in different bathroom sinks plenty of times. Easy enough. Easy enough when you don't have to move drains, when you don't have to retrofit piping, anything else. So this task should have been as easy. I put together the vanity, put the sink on top, great. Found the faucet we were going to use, great, good. This is going to be as simple as unscrewing 2 hoses and then removing the sink, putting the new sink in, putting the new vanity in, attaching the new hoses. Done. Simple. First step in that is shut off the water. So these have the little quarter turn shut off valve. Cold water shut off had a quarter turn on it. Great. Went and turned it really loose and it wasn't tight at all. Just with my fingers like this. Oh man, it's an easy quarter turn shut off until the handle was in my hand because the brass fitting beneath was so worn out and thin, it just snapped off right in my hand. Shit. So now this wasn't as simple as undoing a couple of things. I have no access to the main shutoff to shut it off. So at least the water was still running. It wasn't leaking anywhere. So the current faucet still ran. All great. But I had to let the client know, hey, you need to get a plumber for this. I can't do this. I get you right up to the step of the vanity's built. I did a cutout on the side. So it's going to get around some wiring for your instant hot water heater, all these things. All they're going to have to do, they need to replace out the water shutoff valve. And I want them to remove the sink and then slide the new vanity in, attach the new sink and faucet. That will be on them. Yeah, because I know my limits. And the big piece, because of this, the big piece of why I wasn't going to do anything further on it and why I probably should have said I can't do any of this in the first place is because I'm insured in this shop for the work I do in this shop. I haven't told my insurance company like I do handyman work and all this too, because that adds yet another, like when you're dealing with a business, this is a little side, when you're dealing with a business that's multi-headed like this one is, where I'm doing some content, where I'm doing 3D printing lasers, and maybe I made it too complicated for them to understand. Actually, I just said I have a workshop with lasers and woodworking equipment and left it at that. They get confused when you're throwing too many buckets at them. Like they want every business to fit neatly. Oh, it's code this, which is woodworking. That's it. But if I added in, oh, I also do handyman work, I also do blah, they'd be like, oh, we can't insure you. So I didn't want to risk screwing up something else further. Like it should have been as easy as a couple of wrenches or undoing a couple hoses. And then it turns into a major water disaster or there's a flood in the shop, or even everything else went well, but then equipment malfunction or the faucet goes bad or whatever. I don't think my insurance would cover me for that. And then I'm not sure her insurance would cover it either if it was like, you didn't have a licensed plumber do this. What are you thinking? So I know in my shop here, in my lease, it says any work I have done needs to be done by a licensed contractor. Trim work, I'm not worried about. There's no liability in that. Like trim's not going to break anything. It might look ugly, but it won't because I approach it like an artist, not like a contractor. So it's going to look great, but it's not going to cause harm, right? I don't think a floorboard trim's going to fall off or leave a splinter and someone's going to step on it and get in their foot and get infected, right? Low likelihood of that. Don't test me on it. But plumbing, things can go wrong. Electrical work, I had a lot of electrical work done here. Could I have done it myself? Yeah, I could have. And I would have in my own shop, in my own house, maybe, but not here. Long story long. I weighed the risk of something potentially going wrong and the liability, and it just was not the right matchup. And again, just because I can doesn't mean I should. And this was a case where it was very clear, nope, this is not a task for me. All right, dead horse beaten. How long have I gone? 40 minutes, man. I'll tell you what, I can't talk short. And well, I had a viewer for a minute. Doggone it, you're gone. Last little segment. The shop's always in transition. It's always been in transition. The problem is I have never paused to audit the charter. So when I moved into space 2.5 years ago, I was really focused on woodworking. It's a hobby shop. I would open an Etsy shop with it. I only need so many cutting boards. And ironically, the worst cutting board, my oldest cutting boards, that were probably scraps of other cutting boards I've made, are the ones I use at my house. Good stuff I try to sell. Some of my scraps I end up using at home. So maybe someday I need to make myself a nice one. But this was going to be my hobby woodworking shop to do wood turning, just to enjoy myself in retirement. I didn't have a space at the house to be able to do this kind of stuff at this scale. So I started with that woodworker's mindset, hobbyist. And then I get the CNC. I have my first employee and everything that came with that. Then I got a laser engraver. Then I got another laser engraver. Then I was buying bits for my CNC router from a local guy that makes those. And he showed me his 3D printers or printer one and showed me some of the things he was making with it. Just neat little bins and stuff, organization stuff for himself, stuff for his CNC routers, just helpful things around the shop. That's cool too. I think every woodworker should have a 3D printer. There are so many things that are useful that you could make with it. I think every homeowner should have a 3D printer because, again, there's so many cool little things you could print. But with it comes time and attention and maintenance and management and oversight, all that thought overhead, right? So it has transitioned. It has moved from straight up woodworking shop, and you can see what the woodworking equipment does now. It holds boxes and other shit, right? CNC, lasers, 3D printer, then content. And really the content's been all along this journey. For a long time, it was recording stuff and never editing it, never posting it. I don't think I've done the video yet of the time-lapse video of me moving into the space and setting it up. That might be fun at some point to do before I ever move out of the space. Maybe it'll never happen. Along came the ducks, right? And I think in seasons a lot. So I look at January after Christmas holiday, January till summer break, and then after summer break through Christmas, right? It becomes 2 seasons a year as far as the workshop goes, and trying to optimize my time in those. And I've never laid out a plan that I've really stuck to. Each year looks different from the previous one because things have changed. New equipment has arrived in the shop. And with that comes sort of new direction. So I laid out a roadmap 3 years ago of where I was going with this shop 2.5 years ago. Along the way, these other doors opened, new opportunities appeared to me, and I walked through those doors. Sometimes I walked back out of that door. Most of the time I go through the door and I start down another path. Doesn't necessarily mean it's left the trail entirely, but I've never stopped to update the map, update my route. Okay, I went right, and then I went left, then I made another left, I made another right, but I didn't map it out. And I didn't check, like, how does this get back to where I was going? Or did I change, have I just changed course completely? Am I even looking at the right map? Do I have the right map anymore? I don't know. Is this the shop I need for this season? Should I be morphing this thing? Do I do different things in the second half of the year that I did before summer break? Should I be doing stuff right now to prepare for the second half of the year? I always tell myself, like, all right, get all this Christmas stuff knocked out in April and May. So when you come back after the summer, you're not now thinking about it. You can start marketing the things that you're trying to sell for Christmas shops. Yeah. So seasonally, you're going to set the shop up different to do that. Am I on a new path? Am I looking at the right map? As I mentioned a minute ago, I don't need to do less. Again, this isn't a thing of I'm overwhelmed with too many things. I'm just overwhelmed because I'm fragmented. I don't think I'm doing the right things. So I don't need to do less. I just need to choose better. My mind generates possibilities faster than time can execute, or faster than I have time to execute any of them. And I'm always signing up for the next project before I finish the previous one. The Pilates studio work I'm doing is the greatest case study in this. And maybe when I'm all done with it, and I will be all done with it soon, knock on wood, I committed to it. I'm going to get it done. But when I'm done with that, I'm going to become the isolationist again. Like, I'm not doing outside work anymore. Drawing a hard line of, I will do custom work for people that goes outside of the shop, not just shipped, like sign work, things like that. Great. What I'm not doing is things where I have to travel. Like, I have this great workshop here, wonderful space with all the tools I need to do all these things. What I don't want to do is go do work in a different workshop and someone else's studio, someone else's space. So doing trim work and stuff like that, so much of it I can do here, but the final piece of it have to be done somewhere else, installation of things. So it's one thing to make a sign here and then go put it up somewhere. That's all. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about things that will keep me in another space for many hours or days. Because when I'm doing that, it means I'm not here doing the things that I need to do here. And it's veered so far off of my purpose of having this space. It just leaves me questioning a lot of stuff. So I'm reeling that in. At the same time, I cannot back out on a commitment that I made. And so it is one thing where we hit a bump in the road with the plumbing and, hey, this is something that needs to be done by a licensed plumber. That's one thing. I can back out of that. And even with that, I've still been on the forefront of it of, I'm going to take this to the limit of what I can do for it since I signed up for it in the first place. But I draw a hard line of what pieces the plumber has to do. But going forth after all of this, I'm not even going to say, oh, I might be able to, like, let me consider. No, the bulk of my work has to happen here. That's the line I'm drawing. It feels so good to say that out loud. Ideas are a renewable resource, right? I never run out of ideas. My problem with ideas is cataloging them, regularly reviewing them, getting them all in one place to regularly review them, reprioritize, see what fits in the season I'm in, see which things were important at one point. I think I talked about this last week, like past will wrote checks for future will to cash or future will to pay. And maybe I don't want to anymore. So it could be a great idea today. And when I audit it in a month or a couple months, I don't need to delete it, but it needs to move to the, okay, someday maybe, probably not pile. I can still keep it cataloged there. This might be a good little piece of content to look at, is how I go about idea collection and curation and auditing, prioritization. We'll put a little pin in that one, but that gives me some ideas of what to do. So my ideas, a vastly renewable resource, never run out of ideas. That'll never be a problem. Never, ever a problem. Time, however, is not a renewable resource. And that is what I struggle with constantly. Only so many hours in the day. There's only 6 hours in my day during the week. And I have to use them wisely, and I have to keep them tightly tied to my stated purpose of being here. How many pages left? I think we're on the last page, everybody. So I don't need fewer ideas. I just need better selection. I don't need to shrink. I need to refine, not shrink the scope of what I'm doing, refine the scope of what I'm doing to make sure I'm only doing the best things, the most aligned things to my purpose of being here, what brings me joy, what brings me satisfaction in creation, in creating things, right? All right, I don't need to do less. I need to choose better. I think that's the bottom line, right? We all could. So how do you handle your own internal audits? How do you decide what's worth doing, what's not worth doing? And is it a deliberate process for you, or does it just happen haphazardly, or does it not happen at all, if it happens at all? So drop your response in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe someday we'll have, I said I've had one view. The average view duration was 2 minutes and 12 seconds, and I've been talking for 52 minutes right now. So whoever you were, thank you. Maybe one day we'll have more than a person on here. Maybe one day I'll be very consistent about doing this Monday mornings at 8. And I think if I set myself a timer and just, that's when you're doing it, do it. And if you don't do it, then you don't do it. That might be the way to go. Either way, I would love to hear from you. This will come out as an abridged version, so you'll lose maybe a half hour of this 52-minute broadcast when you see the abridged version of it. I'll cut out all my ands, ums, buts, pauses, like that one, and you'll have a nice shortened version. Still same content. I'm not going to remove it. I'm not going to highly edit it, move stuff around. It's just a courtesy to you, because sometimes I just kind of wander a little aimlessly and get stuck on things. So I'll trim all that out and the big spaces, so it'll just make it a little bit more digestible for you. And I'll be pulling some shorts out of here as well and posting those separately through the week, which those might be a little bit more digestible as well. So those who have watched, 2 viewers now, appreciate it. I picked up a 34th follower. Pretty exciting. Pretty excited about that. So big cheers to Brian Kelly, who not only followed, but was brave enough to let his profile be public to let us know that he's the one that followed. Brian Kelly, I don't believe I know you personally, so even more thanks. That's really cool. You can subscribe too. It helps. It helps feed my family. No, it helps feed my ego. So that's what the reality is. It helps feed my ego. I would like to get monetized, not because I'm thinking, oh, YouTube will be my savior of making money and pay my rent. That's not it at all. I would be happy to get, so you need to get monetized. I think it's 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in the last 12 months. And that's a lot, because I have 34 subscribers right now, unless someone else wants to subscribe watching this. I'd be glad to have you. So it is a big lift to get there. And even if I got monetized and got a penny a month, that would be so cool to me, because then I'd be a professional YouTuber. And that was the goal, setting off on all this. That's what I told one of the Katusas that worked with me in Korea, Korean soldier. He asked me what I was going to do when I retired. I said I was going to be a YouTuber. And so if I got a penny a month after being monetized, man, I would be thrilled, because then I could call Lee and tell him, I did it, man. I did it. It took me 5 years, made a penny, and I'd frame that penny or set it in acrylic or something. It'd be really cool. So please subscribe, share with your friends, ask them to subscribe too. I would really dig it. All right. That's all I got. I appreciate those that have watched, those that may watch in the future, or even if you never watch, that's fine too. This is just, it's a process that I work through. Fridays, I post an article or an essay on Substack. Think about that through, I think about things through the week, and then that's what causes me to write Thursday nights, then publish on Friday, and then think about it more over the weekend. And then I do my Monday morning live, sometimes on Monday, sometimes on Tuesday, sometimes never. Think about things more. Sometimes the videos, the live streams turn into the writing. Sometimes the writing turns into the live stream. Never know what's going to happen. So this is ValorCraft Workshop. This is ValorCraft Workshop. This is ValorCraft Workshop. Head, hands, and heart. That's the work that I do here. My name is Will. I appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you again soon.